Hello, everyone. This is BJ Martin, and thank you for joining me for another HaloLife podcast. Stu Matthews and myself at angelsnation.com, we've had a blast going through the first 10 of our 60 on 60 greatest players of all time, and we're excited to go through the next list. Today, we're going to go over 47 through 50, and me and Stu, we have a tendency to go long and get a little long-winded as we talk about these great angels. So for the sake of keeping these under 40 minutes each, we've condensed them. So I'm going to actually send you right into the session in progress. But before then, I just wanted to kind of explain the HaloLife 60 on 60 list. This is the formula that was put together. It takes into account Baseball Reference and Fangraph WAR ratings. We also take into account awards voting, where a player might have finished in whether he made the postseason with the Angels or All-Star appearances. Other factors go into consideration. We created a formula. A number comes in. The highest number on the list is going to be number one. And we took the top 60 ratings, and that's where we've come up with our list. So we're going to just throw you right into this thing at number 50. So we're going to start here at number 50. Number 50, defensive shortstop. He had a career in Montreal before he came to the Angels. That would be the OC, Orlando Cabrera. The OC came to OC.
Orlando Cabrera, by any chance?
That's the man. 2004, he came in and he replaced David Eckstein, who was a fan favorite who just left as a free agent on his own right to the St. Louis Cardinals. And OC came in, and boy, did he fill a hole at shortstop immediately. What do you remember about the OC in OC?
I was out of OC. How about that? When Eckstein won the ring in 2002. After that, I was in England for very many years. I was with ESPN over there. So I was watching Orlando Cabrera play shortstop in a completely different style from Eckstein in a completely different country. But I was watching on MLB TV. I would have to, sometimes the game didn't end until 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, physically, you couldn't talk two more different players than you said that Orlando Cabrera replaced David Eckstein. I don't think replaced is the right word. I would bicker with that. But he was the next guy to play shortstop. He was the next guy to take control of that infield. He was really, really, really good. And when you think about this, he's still only 46 years old. Can you believe that?
Yeah, he could probably play shortstop still for this club.
Yeah, I mean, if you put him on your softball team right now, but okay, so I mean, Orlando Cabrera comes here, and with the Expos and etc. He kind of ended up being the leader of the defense by default because he was a professional, and he was an incredible talent. So what Eckstein made up for in hustle and work and grit and overcoming the odds, Orlando Cabrera had that body, and you could tell this man was meant to play shortstop, and he did it well, man, didn't he? I mean, he had a rocket arm, and he also brought a bat to the table, which was something that, line drive bat, which is a lot different than, I don't know. Maybe I'm projecting into the future. I think I can see a similar player coming along this year with somebody like Jose Iglesias, who is impeccable fielder, great athlete, and brings a lot more to the table offensively than you know. And I guess those are my first impressions. That first of all, he's only 46, and I want him on my softball team.
Yeah,
but there was a lot more to it,
Yeah, so like you said, very different player than his predecessor. And Eckstein filled a great role as that leadoff hitter for the club, leading up through that 2004 season before Cabrera came. But the timing worked out really well for the Angels because Sean Figgins had pretty much established himself as an everyday player and a leadoff hitter. So what I thought Cabrera, where he really enhanced the Angels, And we got to remember, it's only 3 seasons, but in those 3 seasons, he did win a Gold Glove. He did finish 15th in MVP one season. But what I thought he did is he would steal bases. He stole 20 or more bases every year he was with the team, which was comparable to what we had from his predecessor. And then talk about consistency. In those 3 years, he had 28, 45, and 35 doubles, 8, 9, and 8 home runs, drove in 57, 72, and 86 runs batted in. And I think a lot of that had to do with where he placed in the lineup. I think later in his career, they started putting him, back behind the cleanoff hitter, and he kind of was batting in that 6th, 7th spot in the lineup. So great defense, great overall player. And when you talk about the defense he brought on, we're coming out of as an Angel fans, coming out of this Andrelton Simmons era where we had a great defensive shortstop. And during that 3-year period in his career, Orlando Cabrera was 5th best at defensive WAR at all positions in the game. And then he was the third best shortstop at defensive WAR, but among all positions, he was the 5th best defensive player. So very similar to what we've seen with Andrelton Simmons during his tenure. So I think, honestly, he's 50th on this list, and it's quite impressive that he got to 50 in 3 seasons. So it's 3 seasons in a body of work that got him to 50th. So yeah, he went on to.
He was out there every day too. He never got hurt.
That was the thing. Yeah, you look at it.
He didn't hurt so much out of the season.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you look at his career. I mean, it was 161 games, 162 games, 155 games. He was always clocking in to, from 155 games to 160 games. You could count on him being healthy. And what a great valuable player, and one that we just don't hear a lot about now. Almost a decade after he's retired, but he did have just a fine career.
Yeah, he was almost a throwback to some of the older shortstops too, from maybe like the 60s or 70s, like that mold of kind of shortstop where you're going to get a guy who just gets his glove, goes out there and plays stellar defense, goes right to shortstop, and he's bossing that infield. He's protecting the pitching staff. He's running the infield. And he's also going to give you, in 2006, BJ, I think he had something like 676 at-bats.
Yeah.
At-bats.
That's a throwback,
buddy. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like Lou Boudreau off the Cardinals in the 40s, might have had that many. Guys just didn't go get their glove, go out there, go to work every day. He was a one-tail player, but like you said, an elite talent, like an incredible talent. And he wasn't a show-off. He would make the routine plays as well as the brilliant ones. Again, in the eye of history, we'll probably look at the guy you keep mentioning, who's probably on this list somewhere, Andrelton Simmons. And I think you and I will probably say you and I have never seen a more magnificent shortstop than him.
Yeah, there's a very good chance that this secret formula did spit out Simba at some point. We'll have to wait and see. But closing out Cabrera, great defense, and man, we have been blessed as Angels fans with a group of great shortstops throughout the franchise history, beginning with Jim Fregosi and leading all the way up to our most recent Simmons, and look forward to what we get out of Iglesias. But before any more time, I want to move on through the list. So we're going to go to number 49, and we're going to switch positions. We're going to go to the mound, and we're going to take a look at a veteran lefty who came to the club at 35 years old after 8 major league seasons. And that left-handed pitcher is Jeff Zahn. Jeff Zahn had quite a career with the Twins right before, and he joined the Angels in December of 1980, coming off 4 straight seasons of 12 or more wins with the Twins. What do you remember most about the veteran left-handed pitcher, Jeff Zahn?
Well, I was a fan, and I think this is my high school years, right about '82, wasn't it? He was there, and his hallmark years were '82, 18-8 record, and I would just have to say that Jeff Zahn that year, when I was 18 years old myself, watching him, I would say solid, dependable. You could count on him to make the starts. But the '82 team was not based around one pitcher so much. The Angels weren't built around a starting pitcher ace kind of guy. So a guy like Jeff Zahn, who ended up closing his career in Anaheim, which is, I think we think fondly of those guys. You kind of go from Don Ossie to Jeff Zahn, A to Z, right? Mm-hmm. Ossie to Zahn, and alphabetically. And Zahn closed his career as an Angel. As he said, he retired as an Angel, and he probably still lives in Orange County. So many of them do. And, it was a team, though. That was the Gene Mauch year, 1982. And the team was built out of stars that the Cowboy Gene Autry had brought in through trades or free agent signings, and he wasn't afraid to sign money. So Jeff Zahn knew he didn't have to go out there and be Nolan Ryan. He had to be Jeff Zahn. And what he gave you was the best Jeff Zahn every single outing, and which is good enough, because when the guys swinging the bats are Downing, Grich, Carew, Reggie Jackson, let's talk about, Fred Lynn, Brian Downing. 1982 was a team. Offensively, it was built for offense. And as a high school student, I was like, yeah, every time he got the ball, I felt, yeah, we're going to win this game. And I still say we, as when I refer to the Angels, I shouldn't say that. As journalists, I should say they. But when I was 18, it was like, yeah, we're going to win because Jeff Zahn is our most reliable, consistent starting pitcher. No way was he an ace. He was not an ace. They didn't have one. They didn't need one, did they?
Yeah, that 82 team that you're referring to with all that, murderer's row of hitters, 4 former MVPs in that lineup. Yeah, you're right. It was kind of like by committee. Zahn started 34 games. Ken Forsch started 35, so it was those two, and then you had rookie Mike Witt came up that year. He made 26 starts. Steve Rinko, 23, and then Bruce Keeson was really, he pitched really well that season as well, but only made 16 starts. And then you had guys like Dave Goltz, Angel Marino. We got Tommy John late in the season, I think in August. He was a kind of a shot in the arm for the team. But yeah, Zahn held it together. Even the El Kibana, the Louis Tiant started 5 games that year for the Angels. A lot of people don't remember that. But all in all, Zahn 18-8, 3.73 ERA. 12 of those 34 starts were complete games. 4 he finished it with shutouts. And I want to talk about shutouts for a second with Zahn, because that was something that he definitely kind of did a lot of. And we're so unaccustomed to that now as fans, but he shut out 4. He had 4 shutouts in 82. He had 11. He had 3 out of his 11 complete games were shutouts in 84, and he led the American League with 5 shutouts in 84. And each of those years he pitched about 200 innings. So he's a guy that you could rely on. That 82 season when he was 8-8, he was 6th in the Cy Young voting. And yeah, you think about a 35-year-old, we relate that to today's team. And, we think about guys that are much younger, like Alex Cobb, that are coming into the team, and these others. It just kind of goes to show you that, it doesn't matter when you get some of these guys in their career. They can still provide just a major impact. And Jeff Zahn definitely did that. 10, 18, 9, 13 wins his first 4 years with the Angels.
And, you know, like if you look at his totals as an Angel pitcher and you look at like K per nine, walks per nine, Jeff Zahn's walks per nine were something like 2.5, something like that.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. His strikeouts per nine were like 3.4.
Yep.
So it was, you know, I mean, 3.4 per nine. So Jeff Zahn wasn't blowing people away. It was a whole team. Like the guys, not only Murderers Row who could hit, they also could field. That was Carew, Grich, you know, all those guys were fielders. And it made it easier on the pitching staff. So he wasn't a guy coming in for big money, a lot of expectations, and, you know, 10.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. You know what I mean? Like a Trevor Bauer or whatever that is. Okay. So, no, he wasn't that kind of pitcher, but it was a team. He wasn't overwhelming. He knew how to pitch. And I think if you look at similarity scores and you go further back, somebody like Clyde Wright, another left-hander, who just didn't blow anybody away, but, oh, yeah, complete game shutouts, innings, you want to have that. Jeff Zahn gave you that too. And we got the latter end of his career, and it happened to coincide with 1982, my high school graduation, my high school prom, and the Angels going to the playoffs. And I can tell you, I waited in line for those playoff tickets in my pickup truck, my Datsun pickup truck at like 6 in the morning at the Big A. And I slept, you know, in my pickup truck. So that, like, there were cars parked all the way around the stadium. I think maybe you were too young to remember that. Maybe you didn't know how to drive then. But here's the thing. You know, I had a pickup truck, and I basically, it was kind of like your car held your place in line, which was your spot to go buy playoff tickets for that year. And I remember everybody was so happy. I think tickets went on sale 10 in the morning. And I went back to my truck and I was like, oh, yeah, I got these tickets. I've got tickets for the playoffs. You know what I mean? I could take my girlfriend or whatever, my date, whoever it was. Okay, no, she wasn't quite my girlfriend yet. You know, I was in high school. I was still learning this. Okay, BJ. But I get back to my truck and a guy had fallen asleep in the bed of my pickup truck. And he also threw up in the bed of my pickup.
All right. TMI. So good times. Second year the Angels made the playoffs. Jeff Zahn's last season was 85, so he missed that 86 season. But he finished his career. At the time he finished his career, he was top 10 in franchise history in wins, starts, innings, complete games, and shutouts. And even as of today, before this 61st season begins, he was he actually had 13 shutouts, still ranked 6th best. And I actually don't see that changing because who gets complete game shutouts anymore?
Shutouts.
Yeah, he's probably going to be 6th best all time for a while. You know, all due respect to the current pitching staff. Yeah. So
Bueller.
I think one or two shutouts is what it takes to lead the league now. So it's definitely a lost art form with middle relief and the bullpens being used. So number 48 on our list is a catcher.
Right.
I think this is the second catcher that we've had on our list.
You got to bring him back.
So this is
the third or fourth.
I think this might be our second. I think we had Benji, and now we have at 48 Mike Napoli. What do you think about Mike? When I think about, again, this is probably when you're over in England, when Mike Napoli came on the scene. But what are your thoughts on Mike Napoli, Stu?
Do you want me to say this in my English accent? Yeah, for most of the time I was over there, and I would say, "Oh yes, indeed, Mike Napoli, good, fine player, quality." I was watching from over there, but I heard the legends because I was connected to people, and the internet actually was a thing. And Napoli, what I remember from him was, here's a catcher who could hit. And for me, the eyeball metrics were on my laptop, looking at my laptop and trying to think about who was a catcher kind of similar to him, who was a catcher who could hit with power, right? And had serious, serious pop in his bat. And I thought, all right, Lance Parrish was the same thing, back in the day, in the 80s. Lance Parrish was a big guy who could hit the ball 9 million miles and was a catcher. But the thing is Napoli, I think, and I don't really know about all the dynamics, because even though I know Mike Scioscia quite well, I was in England. So they were platooning Mike Napoli and Jeff Mathis at a lot of the time, right?
Yep. Yeah, he was sharing time a lot with Mathis.
And Jeff Mathis, is he still playing? Please tell me he is.
I think he is. I think he might be a free agent still at the time of this recording, but I'm sure he'll find his way on the big league roster because he's a valuable defensive catcher.
Like 89 years old. Would he set the record for the oldest catcher there ever was? I mean, look, guys like Mike Napoli would go out of fashion if Major League Baseball ever brought in the robot umpire. Do you know what I mean? Or, yeah. I mean, they wouldn't go out of fashion. Catchers like Mathis would go out of fashion. The framing, bring the ball back, bring it back, steal a strike, right? And coddle your pitching staff. That wasn't Mike Napoli. He wanted to go up there and mash, okay? And who can blame him? And Mike Scioscia, being a man who valued defensive skills as a catcher, but was also as tough and as hard as anybody ever could be. He saw more elite defensive skills in Mathis, and so it was a time split. And I remember the internet communities. I'm reading these internet communities going to war at each other in the forerunners before Twitter, where people would just flame each other. Well, no, Napoli should be playing. No, and Mathis should be playing. And Scioscia's just like, I write out the lineup card. JT Realmuto today would be the player where you say, all right, if Napoli could run and he could also steal you a base and was a total athlete, Realmuto would be your comp for today. And I go back to the 80s and I say Lance Parrish for the power. But, I mean, Mike Napoli, you knew for the years that he was in Anaheim, you knew you were going to get some bombs. Now, 16, 10 homers, 20 homers, 26. And then all of a sudden he was in the trade with Texas. And it's like, where did those home runs evaporate from? And they evaporated from the catching positions when Napoli went to Texas.
Yeah. So yeah, the interesting thing on Napoli, and that well said about what he provided offensively versus Mathis. There's prospects that you hear a lot about, and Jeff Mathis was one of those. He was in that same draft with Kochman and McPherson. Those three were really being ridden a lot as top prospects in the game of baseball, not just in the Angels organization. And the Angels had a long line of catchers that just didn't pan out. Eric Pappas, John Orton, the George Fabregas, you could go on and on. Todd Green was a guy, if you remember back in the 90s, he hit like 34 homers down, I think, during the strike year at Lake Elsinore. He to me is what we hope. Napoli fulfilled what we had hoped, like we would have seen from Todd Green at the catcher position. But I think like you said, you nailed it right in the head. It was a dilemma for Scioscia, like where to play him. He ended up playing some first. He ended up being a DH on those days. They could get both of them in the lineup and keep Mathis behind a plate. And clearly, Napoli was the far better producer offensively. He had 3 straight seasons of 20 or more home runs, 2008 to 2010, and then as all reports indicate, Tony Regans was resistant to trade him, to Toronto for Vernon Wells, and our owner, the Angels owner, Artie Moreno, forced that move. He wanted Vernon Wells. He was willing to eat the contract, and Napoli went the other way. And of course, he ended up winning a World Series with the 2013 Boston Red Sox. I think he appeared in 3 World Series with 3 different teams after his Angel stint, and had a fine career. But in his Angels career, I think he ended up hitting 251, 92 home runs, in 249 RBIs in that brief stint with the Angels, and obviously that offensive production enough to propel him into number 48 on our Angels 60 on 60. So I'm gonna
BJ, if you don't mind, about Artie Moreno, the owner, really pushing for that deal. Let's just put that in the column that says rumor and or innuendo. We don't know. I was in England, buddy. I could not chase that story down. I was too far away. But I was also in England when I heard stories of Mike Napoli tending bar at a certain very famous bar in Costa Mesa, down towards the beach there, somewhere off the 55. Now, I'm not going to name the name of the bar, but I heard these stories that Mike Napoli would be behind the bar, tending bar. Those are the kind of things that you don't, as an owner, you don't really want to see your players getting into the press for, getting into the newspapers for, or even rumors. And so maybe if Mike Scioscia was split in half, the defensive side versus the offensive side of a catcher, and he's tearing himself apart. He likes both guys. And all right, let's take the guy who's not tending bar here. Okay, let's trade off the home runs, and we'll find another solution at catcher. And this outfielder, Vernon Wells, looks good. It didn't work out. It did not work out. It didn't.
It did. And I'm grateful that you pointed out that rumor innuendo, because it's not confirmed. People piece that stuff together. If we could ever get Tony Regans to come on, maybe he'd clear it up, because it was his tenure as the general manager ended shortly after, within that next year of making that deal. But it didn't really work out too well, because I think the next year they moved Mathis to Toronto. So they didn't keep him very long after Napoli. But Napoli, very colorful guy. Definitely was one of those guys that you love to cheer for in the postseason. He had, the whole Italian restaurants and all that stuff. So, but yeah, just
not only. I'm sorry. Not only did the team lose both catchers for Vernon Wells, which the career in Anaheim is, let's just put it white out on it. Okay, he played there, but both catchers are gone, and Lydia's Italian restaurant, which serves the best spaghetti in all of Costa Mesa, lost their best bartender. So this is what I'm talking about. It's rumor, innuendo. Somebody can say anything. We lost 2 catchers and a bartender. And anyway.
But he's number 48th on our 60 on 60 list. Right ahead of a center fielder who had probably one of the more prolific starts to his career right before he came to Anaheim. And that would be the one and only left-handed center fielder at 47, Fred Lynn. So I'm going to let you speak first. Let me know what you thought. It was obviously a blockbuster deal. He came over in a trade that sent Frank Tanana, Joe Rudi, and prospect Jim Dorsey to the Red Sox. And Steve Rinko, we mentioned, he pitched, I think, started 23 games on an 82 team. Lynn was a 6-time All-Star coming to the Angels in 1981, that strike season. What do you remember as a high school fan coming out of high school and watching Fred Lynn?
I'm in high school, and of course, I wasn't a big fan of players coming over from Boston. And I was 18 years old. I had my driver's license. I was kind of feeling like a little bit of a grown man. When you're 18, you're not really, but when the Boston fans come into town in Anaheim, they make themselves known, don't they? So he was a Red Sox or a Red Sox or whatever that was. And no matter how much they paid him, I still feel like, oh boy, he was expensive talent. And so what I'm saying is that, yeah, you were talking, I'm going to introduce number 47, heralded center fielder, blah, 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 blah. Oh, Mike Trout. No, it's Fred Lynn. The thing is, I can't think of any center fielder between Trout and Fred Lynn who had more hullabaloo press. Yeah. He was an awesome player. Fred Lynn, that left-handed stroke. I mean, his lifetime average was 283, man. And this is, he just was an awesome player. Now you can't say they got ripped off, but they traded away Frank Tanana.
Yeah, Frank Tanana. The Angels did get the best years out of Tanana, though, Stu. I mean, Tanana played for a long time after that, but he clearly was not the Frank Tanana the Angels had. But this is an unbelievable trade. I mean, Frank Tanana was still. Boston was expecting the Angels version of Frank Tanana, because Fred Lynn, he was 28 years old. So you think about Mike Trout being 29 right now. I mean, Lynn was 28 years old. And just think about this. After the 1980 season, he had 6 consecutive All-Star seasons. That's like, he had an MVP, a Rookie of the Year, had finished in the top 5 in MVP another time. He'd actually won 4 Gold Gloves at the position of center field as well. This guy was a superstar on all counts. And you mentioned his final average. At the time the Angels acquired him, he had a 308 lifetime batting average, 124 home runs, 521 RBIs in those 7 years at Boston. So, I mean, this guy, when you talk about someone that came to the Angels with high hopes and a lot to take on, I mean, and I hope, adding him to the lineup with Baylor, with Grich, with Downing, I mean, he had to live up to a lot, and it didn't help him that when he had a knee injury right in the middle of that first season.
No.
And he was batting 274. He was batting 274 when he got hurt in June, and he missed about a month, and he came back and after the strike shortened season, and just was not the same player down the stretch.
He's a legend. Okay, Fred Lynn is a legend in the sense that maybe not an Angels legend, but this guy is look, I mean, you go 306 home runs. Now that's a career, and he brought power to a position, center field, and he also brought elite defense, or if it wasn't elite, it was above average defense, class, all that, a big name. Gene Autry, just like Artie Moreno, like to please the fans with these big names. Fred Lynn was one. He was that, and he was roaming center field before Mike Trout ever got there. And I'm not sure if you can name a center fielder who was better in between the two. But if you don't mind, I've got a trivia question for you about Fred Lynn. This is my turn to play trivia on you.
Hey, shoot! I'll try my best, Stu.
There's no no harm for not getting them, but Fred Lynn is inducted to a number of Hall of Fames. Okay, see how many of the Hall of Fames that he's inducted into, of all of them.
Well, I would guess USC's Baseball Hall of Fame, if they have such a thing, because he was on 3 straight College World Series teams with the USC Trojans.
Indeed.
And another thing that's crazy, I look at that. He was on 3 straight College World Series here, and he was taken, I think, with the 60th pick in the second round. The Angels took a guy, I'm not going to name any names, but someone I never even heard of in the first round that year. And I think Eddie Murray was even taken a few picks behind him, a Hall of Famer. But yeah, so I'll tell you that. I'll say the College World Series have a Hall of Fame.
US college baseball has a Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so he'd be in the College Baseball Hall of Fame. And is he in the Red Sox Hall of Fame?
Well, do you think?
I would think those 7 seasons would be enough.
I mean, he's a legend there as well because he was a child. He was a Red Sox hero before he came to the Angels. So, and Fred Lynn, a good guy as well. So he's as well known for his charitable works and, you know, the things that he does in the community, help looking after children. If you ever want to donate to a cause, just look at what Fred Lynn is still sponsoring today. And I'll tell you another thing that he's on. And these are 2 authors. I don't know, my bookcase is over there somewhere. I can't see it, but a writer that 2 writers I very much admire, Lawrence Ritter and Honig, Bob Honig, compiled a book of the 100 greatest baseball players of all time. Fred Lynn is in that book. Now, if that's not a Hall of Fame, I don't know what is. These guys are baseball historians going all the way back. And it's much like if you and I want to debate about a Mount Rushmore of this or that. Fred Lynn was a great player when he arrived. He got hurt. He still was. And, I mean, almost close to legendary. But how many Hall of Fames do you have to get into? Charitable Hall of Fame, College Baseball Hall of Fame, Red Sox Hall of Fame, USC Hall of Fame. He's not in the Angels Hall of Fame, but good guy Hall of Fame, yeah. And, you know, how many more Hall of Fames do you have to be in to have and 300?
So he's 47th on our 60 and 60, and he's definitely on the This Week in Baseball montage Hall of Fame because they always ended that with that Downing and Lynn collision in the left center field wall where that wall bends back and they make that catch. And then he's still, if there's a Midsummer Classic MLB All-Star Hall of Fame, he needs to be in there because he's still to this date, he's the first and only All-Star to hit a grand slam, and he did that 83 at Comiskey Park off Atlee Hammaker. So Fred Lynn, Hall of Famer in so many different ways, not in the National Baseball Hall of Fame, but I'm sure you could make that argument with him along with 50 others that aren't in there. But great all-around player, 47th on our list. I hope you enjoyed this edition of HaloLife Podcast 60 on 60. If you're watching on YouTube and you like this video, be sure to like us. We love to hear your feedback. And again, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Google Network, please share it with your other friends. On YouTube, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel as well. We have a lot more content coming out in the coming weeks and as the season goes on. And we appreciate you having interest in supporting us. And until next time, find a ballpark and live your life 9 innings at a time.